Late at night, in a small town in the Midwest, faint yellow lights glimmered from the old wooden houses scattered along the road. The silence was so deep that even the wind whispering through the cornfields could be heard clearly. Anna sat in the passenger seat of an old pickup truck, her face faintly illuminated by the glow of the dashboard. At 25, she worked as a librarian, her eyes always glinting with curiosity. Anna was fascinated by strange stories, UFOs, supernatural phenomena, legends most people dismissed as nonsense. To her, every tale held a hidden fragment of truth. Sometimes her sensitivity earned her the nickname Dreamer, but she didn't mind. Behind the wheel was David, her boyfriend. He was 3 years older, a mechanic at the town's garage. His tanned, rugged face reflected his practical, straightforward nature. If Anna was a dreamer, David was the anchor that kept her tethered to ordinary life. He didn't believe in UFOs or ghosts and often laughed when Anna recounted articles or conspiracy theories she'd read. To David, everything could be explained by logic, mechanics, or science. And yet, it was this contrast that bound them together. Anna felt safe with David, while David found it amusing to listen to her ramble about things he considered unreal. That night, they were simply driving home across the fields after a small gathering with friends. But neither of them knew that the familiar road was about to turn into a nightmare. The pickup rattled along the dirt road, flanked on both sides by cornfields taller than a man, swaying in the breeze. The night sky was pitch black, a few stars flickering faintly above, but the road ahead was swallowed by darkness. Suddenly the engine sputtered, releasing a harsh, grinding noise. The headlights flickered a few times and then went out completely, leaving them in total darkness. David frowned, twisting the key, but it was useless. The engine whined and fell silent. "No way," he muttered, stepping out to lift the hood. Anna glanced around, a chill crawling up her spine. The air grew heavy, the silence so oppressive even the crickets had stopped. She was about to call out to David when something strange caught her eye in the sky. Far off, above the edge of the field, a pale green glow appeared. At first it was small, like a star, but within seconds it swelled, shifting erratically as though searching for something. The light was unlike any airplane or satellite. It was utterly silent, hovering unnaturally in the sky. "David," Anna whispered, her voice trembling. "Look." David raised his head, his brow furrowing. The green glow swept across the cornfield, casting eerie shadows. A freezing wind rose, carrying with it a burnt, metallic stench. At that instant, the truck shook violently. The radio crackled to life with static hiss, though no one had touched it. The corn ahead bent and swirled, forming a massive circle on the ground. Anna gripped the door handle, her heart pounding. In the pale green haze, she caught sight of a tall, gaunt figure standing motionless in the field, head tilted upward, staring straight at them. David slammed the hood shut and strode quickly back to the truck. Shaking his head, his voice rose, sharp with unease. "Probably just the alternator messing up. Stop imagining things." But Anna couldn't tear her eyes from the sweeping glow. She shivered and whispered, "No, there's someone out there." They scrambled back inside the truck. David twisted the key again. Suddenly, the interior light flicked on by itself, then snapped off. The radio erupted in static once more, laced with strange noises, like whispers carried from a distant void. Anna froze. On the passenger side window, faint handprints began to appear, long and distorted, pressing outward from the dark. Thin, spidery fingers dragged slowly down the glass, leaving damp streaks behind. "David, do you see that?" Anna screamed, pointing. David turned, but to him, the window was perfectly clear. He scowled, gripping the wheel tighter. "There's nothing there. Calm down." Instantly, Anna felt a voice slither into her mind. Not in English, not in any language she knew, but a warped sound like metal grinding on metal. It grew louder, worming through her skull, crushing her thoughts. Clutching her head, she gasped. "They're in my head." David grabbed her shoulder, but his hand was clammy, drenched in sweat. For the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. And then, from the darkness of the field, the tall, gaunt figure began to move toward the truck. Its gait was jerky, deliberate, each step making the cornstalks collapse as if under tremendous weight. Just then, a raspy voice rang out from behind the truck. "Don't look straight at them." Anna whipped around. An old, trembling man emerged from the shadows. It was Mr. Miller, the eccentric neighbor the town always mocked. The flickering green glow swept across the field, illuminating Miller's haggard, pale face. His clouded eyes bulged wide with a tension that seemed decades in the making. "They've returned," his voice quavered but held grim certainty. "I told everyone for years, but no one believed me. They don't just come from the sky. They crawl into our minds." David climbed out, anger and fear colliding in his voice. "What the hell are you talking about? It's just a trick of the light, a plane, something." Miller staggered closer, gripping David's shoulder with a shaking hand. "You don't understand. They're not planes. They hunt us. They choose the weak, the shaken. If you hear the whispers, it means you've already been marked." Anna shrank into herself, clutching her head. The metallic whisper still echoed, each word a jagged drill in her mind. She looked up at Miller with desperate eyes. "How do we stop them?" Miller sucked in a trembling breath, despair burning in his gaze. "You can't. You can only run, but never, never look into their light. If you do, you'll never be yourself again." At that moment, the ground quivered. Overhead, the green glow swelled violently, rumbling like distant thunder. A colossal beam of light lanced down from the UFO, engulfing the truck. The headlights flickered, windows rattled, and on the glass, countless elongated handprints spread thick, as if swarms of beings pressed against the cab from outside. Miller screamed hoarsely. "Down! Don't look at it!" The green beam tore through the night, locking onto them. The air grew heavy, suffocating. Anna's ears rang, her body stiffened, every hair on her skin standing on end. David collapsed to his knees, clutching Anna, pressing her against his chest. But no matter how tightly he held her, Anna's body began to rise. Her feet lifted off the dusty ground, dangling helplessly, her eyes wide with terror. "No, I won't let them take you," David roared, yanking at her arm. Anna trembled, but her voice was no longer her own. A warped, metallic sound spilled from her lips. "Chosen mark." Miller dropped to his knees as well, clutching his head, wailing. "Don't fight it. The more you resist, the stronger they pull. It's too late. The field howled. Corn bent into spiraling patterns, the earth quaking as if a storm rose from beneath. David gritted his teeth, pulling Anna with every ounce of strength, blood dripping from his hands where his nails dug into her wrist. No, I won't lose her. In a blinding flash, Anna's body jerked violently as if torn from him. And then the light vanished. The UFO was gone, leaving only the oppressive silence of the night sky. Anna collapsed to the ground, motionless. The whispers stopped. The light was gone. Only David's ragged breath and the wind rushing through the corn remained. Shaking, David cradled her, whispering, "Anna, wake up, please." Her eyes fluttered open, but they were different. Her pupils had shrunk to tiny dots, lost in a chilling, pale void. She smiled faintly and whispered in that same metallic voice, "They're still here." David froze, staring into her alien gaze. The girl before him no longer felt like Anna at all. Her breathing was steady, but cold, lifeless. Miller stumbled back, muttering like a madman. "It's too late. They left their mark in her. She'll never be human again." David shouted in defiance. "Shut up. She's still Anna. She's just in shock." He clung to her, desperate. But Anna only gave a thin, eerie smile. From the corner of her eye, a faint green glow seeped, trailing down her cheek. She whispered, her voice echoing from somewhere beyond this world. "They see everything. They hear everything. And next time, it won't just be me." Far on the horizon, the night sky flickered once more. A pale green glow pulsed, then vanished. David held her tighter, his heart sinking into dread. Deep down, he knew. This was only the beginning. Thou, a boy. New York in the fall. Long streets covered in golden leaves. Amid the noise and bustle of the city, Ethan Miller, a sophomore majoring in communications at New York University, stepped out of the subway station with an old suitcase and eyes full of excitement. Ethan was born in a small Midwestern town. For him, New York was a dream. Opportunities to study, creative projects, and a bright future. Yet that dream came with a very ordinary anxiety, finding a place to live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. After weeks of searching, he stumbled upon a room for rent at an unusually cheap price in an old Manhattan building. The landlord spoke little, kept things short, and insisted on signing the contract quickly. Ethan thought himself lucky and suspected nothing. To him, this was a chance to begin his independent student life. A private space to study, to dream, and to write the stories he always longed to tell. But he had no idea the room carried unsolved mysteries. The doors of the past never truly close, and when Ethan stepped inside, he unknowingly awakened something that still lingered in the dark. The story begins here. On his very first night in the new room, Ethan drifted into sleep after a long, exhausting day. The small room was silent, broken only by the faint hum of traffic outside. In his dream, Ethan found himself standing in an endless hallway. The gray, stained walls pressed inward, the low ceiling heavy above him. At the far end, a door creaked open, as if someone had just passed through. Heart racing, hands cold, Ethan walked toward it. When his fingers touched the knob, a gust of icy wind burst out, carrying a faint whisper. "Don't stay here." He turned around. The hallway was empty, yet footsteps echoed from behind. He tried to run, but each step was heavy, as though invisible hands were pinning his shoulders down. Just as the door slammed shut behind him, Ethan jolted awake. Sweat soaked his body. The alarm clock read 3 a.m. The room was silent, but he couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes were watching him from the dark corner. He forced himself to breathe. Just a dream. I'm just tired. But from that night on, the strange dreams kept coming. Sharper, clearer, and more terrifying each time. Wah! The next morning, Ethan stepped out of his room with dark circles under his eyes. He blamed stress, telling himself it was only the nerves of starting life in New York. Yet while arranging his books, he noticed something odd. The desk chair was no longer where he had left it. He remembered clearly tucking it under the desk, but now it sat in the middle of the room, as if someone had been sitting there. He forced a laugh, brushing it off. Probably pushed it myself last night. On the second night, the dream returned, more vivid. The same hallway, but this time no door at the end, only an old mirror with cracked spiderwebbing across its surface. His reflection stared back, but the face was warped, the eyes hollowed out as if gouged. When the reflection grinned, Ethan bolted awake. The clock on the wall was frozen at 3:04. The second hand twitched but did not move. When he looked closer, Ethan saw a faint handprint smeared across the glass, as though left by breath, though the window was tightly shut. Ni and da. On the third night, Ethan dreamed again. The hallway appeared once more, this time filled with sound, dragging footsteps, uneven and heavy. At the far end, a door burst open, and a gaunt figure stepped out, hair hanging over its face. Ethan tried to scream, but his throat closed tight, releasing only strangled gasps. He snapped awake, trembling. The room was silent, except for the wardrobe in the corner, trembling as though something moved inside. Heart hammering, Ethan crept closer. Just as his hand touched the knob, a heavy thud resounded from within. He flung the door open, nothing but a few rusted hangers inside. Yet the stench of damp mold wafted out, the exact same smell from his dreams. Nah. The room's unease seeped into the day. That afternoon, while Ethan studied, the window flung open by itself despite being locked. A scrap of paper fluttered in and slid under his desk. Picking it up, he saw it was a fragment of an old newspaper. The ink faded but legible in parts. Missing. Apartment. Body never found. Later, as he went downstairs to check his mail, Ethan greeted an old woman in the hallway. She froze, eyes wide with fear, then slammed her door shut without a word. Ethan's chest tightened. Am I imagining all this, or is something really here? One evening while taking out the trash, Ethan ran into the building's doorman, an old man with sunken eyes. The man studied him for a long moment before shaking his head. You're the one who took 4B, aren't you? He rasped. Ethan nodded, surprised. Yes, why? The old man glanced around nervously, then lowered his voice. You should be careful. Nobody lasts long in that room. The last tenant vanished one night, never seen again. Before him, a girl. They found her dead in the bathroom. The police said it was an accident, but everyone here knows it wasn't. A chill spread through Ethan. You mean the room is haunted? The old man didn't answer. He just sighed, pressing a crumpled slip of paper into Ethan's hand. I'll say no more. But if you stay, you should at least know what happened. Back in his room, Ethan unfolded it. It was a yellowed newspaper clipping from over a decade ago. The headline screamed in bold letters: "College student vanishes mysteriously in apartment 4B. Police still searching." That night, after reading the clipping, Ethan struggled to sleep. When he finally drifted off, the nightmare returned. The hallway was no longer empty. Bloody handprints smeared the walls. The dragging footsteps drew closer, and the gaunt figure emerged again. This time, it raised its head. Hollow eyes staring straight at him. A whisper rang out, clearer than ever. "Don't leave me here alone." Ethan screamed, tried to run, but his feet stuck fast to the floor. The figure's bloody hand reached out, pressing against his chest, cold, piercing through flesh. Ethan jolted awake, gasping. But this time, it wasn't just a dream. His shirt was wet, a crimson stain spreading across it. When he switched on the light, the blood was gone, leaving only clammy skin. Nah. The next day, Ethan couldn't focus in class. Every time he closed his eyes, the hollow face returned. Back at the apartment, he found the old clipping gone from his desk, though he was certain he'd left it there. On the wardrobe door, a fresh gouge had appeared, long, jagged, as if carved by fingernails. And on the bathroom mirror, condensation spelled out faint words: "Find me." Ethan now knew he wasn't imagining things. The room held a secret, and the ghost in his dreams wanted him to uncover it. After nights of torment, Ethan decided to search the room. He dragged the wardrobe away from the wall and found a hidden gap behind it. Inside, buried under dust, was a decayed diary. The fragile pages told the story of Rachel, a student who had lived there 10 years earlier. She wrote of whispers, of nightmares, the same ones Ethan now endured. The last entry ended abruptly in shaky scrawl: "If anyone finds this, please help me get out." At that moment, the lights flickered. A cold wind swept through, though the window was closed. The mirror cracked loudly, and from within, Rachel's ghost emerged, hollow eyes fixed on him. Ethan froze. The diary slipped from his hands, its pages scattering across the floor. She leaned close, whispering, "Now it's your turn." Darkness swallowed everything. The next morning, apartment 4B stood silent, as though no one had ever lived there. The landlord posted a new sign on the door: "Room for rent." And so, the story was ready to begin again.